Today's show is sponsored by DVCBuyResale.com. DVCBuyResale.com is a great place to buy or sell your Disney Vacation Club membership. You can view their current Disney Vacation Club resales, get answers to frequently asked questions, and see the DVC points charts all at DVCBuyResale.com. Or call Chantel directly at 1-800-844-4099. This is Walt Disney World Today. Give us 5 minutes and we'll give you the world.
It's Friday, December 14th, 2007, and this is episode 344 of Walt Disney World Today. I'm Matt Hochberg from StudioCentral.com. On the show today, we have Len Testa, co-author of the Unofficial Guide to Walt Disney World. Welcome, Len.
Thanks, Matt, and congratulations on your Golden Globe nomination.
Well, you know, I've been doing this for a couple of years now, and I'm glad the Academy finally recognized my talents.
You must be very happy that Hayden Panettiere got your name right.
It's about time.
Exactly.
With a name like hers, she's got no business screwing up mine.
Hochberg, exactly.
Also on the show, we have Mike Scopa of MousePlanet.com, and all ears now. Welcome, Mike.
Milk doesn't sour as quick as it used to, and our dog Rover here keeps the water in the drip pan from overflowing.
There's a great...
The Mike Scopa story, Carousel of Progress.
Shining at the end of every day.
And also here we have...
Scopa, it'd be the 1700s, not the 1900s. Back when Britain...
Len, we already introduced Len, so we're going to go down to Mike Newell of Mouse World Radio. Welcome, Mike.
Well, you know, Len is so nice that you can always introduce him twice.
Oh, nice.
Very nice. On today's show, we're going to be talking about the advantages and disadvantages of going early in the morning and the advantages and disadvantages of going late in the evening. Mike, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about the idea?
Well, obviously, when you go down to Walt Disney World, you have a choice. You can take an early flight down. This is for people who are flying. You can take a midday flight or an afternoon flight. And I think that it's interesting if we discussed what advantages there are to getting down there real early or getting down there late in the afternoon or evening. And I'm sure everybody's out there wondering why we're laughing, and you're never going to find out.
It's a little message we sent during chat. Go ahead.
I came up with this thought
going.
I came up.
Oh well.
I thought about this the day I arrived at MouseFest, thinking that maybe I'll try that sometime. And I was talking with a lot of people, and it's really interesting. It may depend upon the type of person you are, but I thought it would be a good roundtable discussion for us and make a show. So here we are, and we're ready to go.
It is a very interesting idea because I've done both. I've done the early morning flight and I've done the late evening flight. And I know that Newell is one of the biggest proponents of the early morning flight. Newell, why do you always go with the early morning flight?
One of the reasons I like going early morning is that usually my plane is waiting for me at the airport. I'm not relying on it being delayed from some other city due to weather or mechanical trouble. So when I get to the airport, my plane is sitting there. It's loaded up with the fuel. It's ready to go, waiting for me. That's one of the reasons why. And I also like getting there early and having the whole full day. I like landing around 10:30 in the morning and being able to say, hey, it's 11 o'clock. Here I am, in the rental car, ready to go, ready to rock.
See, I agree with you. It is nice to have that. The thing with, and I'm interested in your opinion on this. The reason why I don't like early morning flights is that we're talking about, when we say early morning flights, we're talking about a flight that leaves your airport before 9 a.m. typically.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And for those kind of flights, that means you're waking up somewhere in the ballpark of 6 a.m. or earlier. And in a lot of cases, it's earlier. Like Newell and I, Mike, we had a 6 a.m. flight for going down to Disney for MouseFest for the cruise and then subsequently later for land.
The main cruise.
That's right, the man cruise. So when we went, I woke up, I think, at about 4-ish in the morning.
Yeah.
And that just drains you and it sets you up for being tired the rest of your trip. Unless you really take a day off and sleep in.
When I leave for when I fly out of Raleigh to go to Orlando, there's a 7:30 flight on Southwest. It used to be 7:30 flight, which means you'd have to get there, somewhere around 6:30, 6:15. Well, it's an hour and a half to an hour and 45-minute drive for me. So when you factor in, getting up and showering and everything, I'm getting up at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, that's why.
To be on that 7:30 flight, yeah.
Well, before I give my other thought, Newell or Scopa, do you have an opinion on that?
Well, the thing is that I'm with Mike. The idea is that if you are getting out on the first flight, then most likely you're not going to be delayed. You're going to get out on time, unless Orlando is socked in,
right?
Or you're
that never happens. I mean, statistically, Newell is correct. The first flight of the day is generally less delayed than later flights in the evening.
Now, a drawback is like what you said, Matt. It's an early day. For me, it's even earlier. My flight leaves at 6:40, and I like to be at the airport early, so you can imagine what time I get up. Now, because of that, I don't sleep that well the night before. I'm always wondering, oh my God, am I going to...
Yeah, I never do too.
Yeah, am I going to oversleep, or am I going to, miss it? So I don't sleep that well, but like Mike, I also like the idea of getting there in the early morning, well, mid-morning, I should say, and when I get there, I'm energized. So all that getting up early is worth it. I get down there, I get my car, and I'm usually, in my room before noon, or I'm in a park before noon, and that's kind of nice.
And see, what I like to do. Yeah, go ahead, Len.
I would much rather get there at night, and I've had some miserable nighttime flying experiences. Like when I went to Vegas the week before MassFest, I ended up getting into my hotel room at 3 a.m. and having to start work at 7 a.m. And it was a miserable cross-country flight with delays and everything. However, if your flight is delayed, I got 4 hours of sleep, and if your flight is delayed at night, I mean, I think it's more comfortable to hang around the airport at night, and you can always sleep on the plane. Versus, I would go insane if I was on a 4-hour delay, for example, to Orlando. I would be after an hour. I would be in the car and driving. I would not. There's no way I would be on the plane waiting for a plane for that long. Whereas,
see, the thing, I like the evening flight. I prefer the evening flights because rather than wake up early, you're going to be tired and everything. I would rather get there the night before I intend to. I take the flight that's after work that evening. Sometime between 6 and 8 p.m.
I get 3 o'clock after work.
Well, but here's the thing. See, I know that I'm not going to get there in time for the parks. So I don't have to worry. I don't have that anxiety inside, like, my flight needs to be on time so I can still get an hour in the parks. No, I don't care. I know the parks are going to be closed. My only destination is my hotel room to go to bed. So I'm not there. I don't have that built up angst. And if I'm delayed an hour or two, it doesn't matter because the parks are closed. So I don't really have an issue with it. And for me, I would rather start my day that I'd have that whole day ahead of me. And that's why I prefer the evening flights for that reason. But you're absolutely right. I mean, the delays that can kill you, and that's a con to flying in the evening for sure.
The thing is, though, I mean, if it's a direct flight, the odds, especially if it's an airline like Southwest, which is where I normally fly, I don't recall being delayed on Southwest for any great length of time ever, other than for things like ice. But if there are things like ice, chances are that things will generally don't improve overnight. That they're as good as they're going to be during the day. The one con though that I can see to flying at night is you do pay extra for your car rental and for your hotel. You got to stay somewhere that night, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're paying for...
It does cost a little bit more.
Day, right?
Yeah. There is an additional... You're right about that one. The other thing about a night flight that's kind of a downside is that you have... You go through your entire day with that built-up angst, like, I want to go. Usually you've got work or something in the daytime, so there's that anticipation, whereas, when you wake up at, for that early morning flight, it's just... you're there.
You're ready to go.
Day. Yeah, I mean, you wake up at 4 a.m. and your brain's not going too strong at that point, so you don't have that kind of, you don't think about it too much before you know it, you're on the plane and you're going. So there's that to be said also.
I'd much rather start my days in the park than not be there when it's opening. I told we talked about what happened on the last show where I was able to get to the Magic Kingdom literally in the bag check at 8:52 in the morning. And I was still the first person on Big Thunder that day, mainly because I was traveling alone. But you get so much more done when you're there in the morning, and even those first few hours, I just want to get to the parks and start doing stuff. I don't want to be checking bags and having to go back at 3 o'clock to check into my hotel and stuff like that.
Now let me throw this out there. If you're traveling with kids, obviously most of the time we're traveling alone or with a significant other. But if you're traveling with kids, I think the equation changes quite a bit because waking kids up at 4 a.m. to go get them ready.
No. You don't do that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, by noon, they're done.
Yeah. And you're setting yourself for the... Then you have the problems on being on the airplane and, cranky, and they're just going to be cranky the whole rest of the day. Yeah. I would think. I mean, wouldn't you, Scopa, would you agree that when you bring kids down, you're probably going to have to go for that later flight?
That's a good question. That was one of the questions I wanted to throw out to you guys who have taken the flight at night. I see more kids during the morning flights. The flights I've taken have been either around 6 or 7, maybe 8 o'clock, and I've seen tons of kids. And I'm just wondering if there are fewer children at night. I mean, I guess if you're taking a 4 p.m. flight, you'd see more children than you would, let's say, maybe a 9 or a 10 p.m. flight.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Newell can attest. It's interesting you brought that up, Mike, because Newell and I were on our flight down to Mousefest, and there were quite a number of children on that flight, wouldn't you say, Mike? Yeah. Or at least it felt like there were, or smelled like it.
Yeah, there definitely was a smell in the air of that flight.
Wow.
That's for sure.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a parent, so I don't pretend to know exactly how it goes. But I don't know how, Len. How have you dealt with Hannah in terms of flights? I mean, has there been a particular time of the day that she does better on in terms of flying, and then subsequently the rest of the day?
It depends on whether she's in school. If she's in school, we'll take there's usually a 5:30 flight that gets in around 7:30 or so into Orlando, 7:30 p.m. So we're in the hotel and everything in the evening. We've done that the last couple of Januaries during the half marathon. When she's not in school, I will actually go for the very early morning flight, literally the first flight out, direct flight out to Orlando that we can get. So because we're taking naps anyway during the day, so by the time we get there and do whatever we want to do around 1 o'clock or so, we're both exhausted anyway. Go back in, check into the hotel, and take a nap. The issue with that is the last time we were in Disney World in July, our room wasn't ready till 4 o'clock. And I'm telling you, when you get up early that first day, at 4 o'clock in the morning, and your hotel room isn't ready till 4 p.m., Hannah just lost it. I mean, she was exhausted. She was crying. We were sitting in the Grand Floridian concierge room, and she was just hysterical. Just could not stop crying.
I do the same thing.
But she wasn't like running around and flailing or anything. She's just
not a happy camper.
No, and she wasn't happy. So, but it was just because she was tired, and so we got into the room. We slept until 7 p.m. or whatever. Got up and went back out to the parks until midnight, and she was fine. But it was just she had enough, and that was it. And
let me throw.
That's why I don't like. That's why I don't like fixing. Sorry. So that's another point actually about flying on your first day is that if there's something wrong with your room, your room is delayed or whatever, you can't check in. Mm-hmm. You're out of luck there. Whereas if you fly in the night before, your room is generally always ready.
Oh yeah. Let me throw this out there. When you guys are booking flights, how much does the price impact your decision on the flight to take? Often, the flights at 3 o'clock in the afternoon book up a little bit faster than that 6 a.m. flight, or perhaps that 9 o'clock flight at night. Do you guys take that into consideration? Like if the 6 a.m. or the 9 p.m. flight is, if one of those flights is significantly cheaper, would you be more apt to go for that one and just say, well, it's worth the money to me?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
If the flight is booked, that's one thing. I think that sometimes the price doesn't mean that much to me if I'm really bent on going early or if I'm going late. I've noticed that most of the time.
It's just another gold doubloon to you, right?
Yeah, right. The thing is that most concern for me is I want to make sure it's a nonstop, and I'm really concerned about the. One of the things I wanted to ask regarding like Len, you and I think Matt. I don't know about Mike, but Len and Matt, you guys have taken both morning flights and evening flights. Is there a difference as far as the how full the flight is? Is it more apt to be full during the morning hour than the night hour?
I think so.
I think morning flights are definitely.
I flew late last night. Late coming back from Mousefest the other night, and the plane was not at all full.
Yeah.
But and if you go in the middle of the day, you're more likely to have longer lines at security.
Exactly.
That's another good point, Mike. The longer lines. I mean, I know that if you're taking Magical Express, the line when you come in on a flight that arrives later than say 8:00 p.m. I mean, you got your own bus basically. You know what I mean? I mean, there is no wait over there.
Here's something that someone mentioned to me. If one thing that you don't want to recommend, and we would not recommend, is if you have never been down there, if you are going on your very first trip, you probably don't want, and you are intending on renting a car, you probably do not want to land at after dark, because it would be much harder for you to figure out how to get to Disney World. Whereas if you are a Disney veteran, well, I don't know. I'm thinking that if it's the first time for you down there, it would be a little bit difficult to find the place.
I think so too.
Yeah,
you think you're not taking the turnpike?
Well, I think the issue is that some people, it's a little bit harder to drive at night. I think that's what Mike's for some people.
Especially if you're flying international and you're not familiar with the way the highways are in Central Florida or the United States. That's very confusing at night.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you can MapQuest it though, right? No.
The other thing. Speaking of that, the tolls. If you're paying the tolls manually late at night, there's only one toll open on the highway.
Yeah,
the same thing.
We talked about this.
Early in the morning. That toll getting on the 417, you have exact change and you have SunPass.
There ain't no one there.
Nope.
And there ain't no one. So if you do not have literally 50 cents in change, you're either blowing through the toll and paying the $100 fine, or you're waiting for someone to come behind you and give you the money. Do not get out of your car at 2:00 in the morning. Go and start panhandling strangers in Central Florida for 50 cents. Don't do that.
No.
Yeah. Not to mention there could just be a backup just for that one lane of people. I know that. Yeah. I know on 417 if you come in late at night, I've done it after midnight. There's one lane open. And there's just one old guy who works the toll over there, and he is slow as molasses, and there's always a backup. I don't know which toll it is, but I mean, that's the issue. Whereas you take that early morning flight, you've got that, I mean, by the time you get down there, I mean, it's going to be, 9, 10, 11 a.m. I mean, there'll be, most of the toll booths will be open.
Yeah.
Well, that wraps it up for today. Again, this episode of Walt Disney World Today has been sponsored by DVCBuyResale.com. DVC Buy Resale is a great place to buy or sell your Disney Vacation Club points. You can view the current DVC resales, get answers to frequently asked questions, and see the DVC point charts, all by going to www.dvcbuyresale.com or email Chantel, who's the owner, at info@dvcbuyresale.com and tell her that Mike Newell sent you. If you want to find our older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, visit the Walt Disney World Today website at wdwtoday.com. For Orlando Testa, Mike Scopa, and Mikey Newell, I am Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.
This has been a production of Mouse World Radio.